Hello, we are the Circular Solutions Enterprise, formerly known as HotForest. We are a multidisciplinary enterprise team consisting of students in chemical and environmental engineering, sustainable bioproducts, and mechanical engineering technologies. Our advisor is Dr. Mark Rudnicki, a professor in the College of Forest Resources. This team's project was sponsored by Thimbleberry, a company founded by Michigan Tech alumni Neil Hawk. Thimbleberry is a Great Lakes-based supplier of upcycled textile materials. These materials will be created using a cellulosic fiber precipitate from ionic liquid solution, a technique which has been explored in Finland using wood pulp, but which has not significantly been exported to the United States. Consumerism today is at an all-time high, with fast fashion contributing to large amounts of waste that is piling up in landfills. All this waste has a negative effect on our environment. A solution to reducing consumer waste is using old textiles to dissolve and make them into new fibers. The technique developed by Circular Solutions Enterprise will contribute to Thimbleberry's research for scaling the process into an industrial setting. During this academic year, the team looked at the chemical processes and economic requirements for cellulosic fiber precipitation. The team analyzed consumer and pre-consumer recycled textiles to identify a consistent source. Many companies currently create cheap clothing goods to sell at low prices, which incentivize the consumer to buy more throughout the change in fashion trends. This is also known as fast fashion. However, fast fashion negatively impacts the environment by increasing the amount of clothing thrown away. It is estimated that half of all clothing ever produced is in landfills now. The problem with fast fashion is that it is based on the linear model, where items are created, used, and discarded. Circular Solution aims to innovate technologies and services that enhance the circular bioeconomy. This project aligns with the team's mission by finding new uses for recycled textiles and diverting waste from landfills. This project represents an important step in developing the circular economy technology related to fabric creation within the consumer products industry. Circular Solutions aims to dissolve old cellulosic materials and precipitate them into new fibers to be used for textiles.
All textiles tested throughout the year were made possible by generous donations. Materials tested throughout the semester were pure cellulose in dissolving pulp donated by SAPI, pre-consumer canvas scraps from Carhartt, and post-consumer textiles from Goodwill. Here is a simplified process flow diagram that gives an overview of the process that will be further discussed in the video. We worked in the Sands building to create a base experimental setup that could be movable and make the trials easily replicated. We started with a wood base that we cut to size with a saw. We created a stand for the syringe pump and a place to clip the yarn spinner. The water bath is a long stainless steel trough with built-in wheels to stretch the fiber on. For our project, we used a hot plate to dissolve and depolymerize the cellulose in the ionic solution. From there, the solution was placed into a syringe and extruded with a syringe pump into a water bath. To keep the viscosity from getting too high, the syringe was wrapped in heat tape. The water bath polymerizes the cellulose into a fiber, and the ionic solution washes off the newly formed fiber. This is a demonstration of the speed at which we can extrude. This is one of the thinnest fibers we have produced using a 22 gauge needle. We used the dissolved pulp from SAPI as a control to work with. The Carhartt and Goodwill samples were meant to be experimental trials. With the dissolved pulp, which is 100% cellulose, up to 10% by weight has been able to be dissolved.
On the other hand, with the Carhartt samples, only a maximum of 2.5% solution by weight has been able to be dissolved. The Goodwill samples started releasing a sour gas smell when dissolved, so we stopped that trial there. This leads to the question of if pretreatment is required. If the Carhartt sample is not dissolving as much, there could be unknown treatments, such as water repellents and dyes, that could be inhibiting depolymerization. This led us to target pre-consumer waste long term. Pre-consumer waste would theoretically have less treatment and detergents since it has never been used. This is an example of what our recent fibers have looked like. The picture on the left uses the dissolving pulp, and the picture on the right is the Carhartt. Equipment has been an issue for this project. Circular Solutions has never done a project with this much necessary advanced chemistry equipment. The first issue we had was finding a lab space, which Dr. Mullins graciously offered us. The second issue was an inconsistent hot plate. Instead of staying at the temperature it was set at, the hot plate will skyrocket in temperature. The ionic solution cannot get above 100 degrees Celsius because that is its flash point, and the cellulose could also burn. This was especially difficult because in the process of dissolving, if the hot plate went above the set temperature, we would immediately have to remove the solution and wait for it to cool off. Another issue was unknown treatments of materials. The Goodwill sample reacted and recrystallized the ionic solution when we tried to extrude it. This made it not viable for extrusion. The syringe pump was also not consistent due to the thickness of the solution. Heat tape was used to combat this, but hand extrusions were still required for thicker solutions. Some of the solutions, though, were not able to be extruded. For this process to be truly sustainable, it requires that the utilized ionic solution is recovered with maximum efficiency. This is mostly due to the high cost of these chemicals. To do this at the laboratory scale, we required the use of a rotary evaporator. This piece of equipment helps to isolate the solution from the water after a cellulose extrusion is performed. Since these rotary evaporators are in high demand for experiments across campus, our group was not able to use one this semester. In the future, we will be proactive in requiring the proper equipment to perform the process. We'll use the rotary evaporator to synthesize our own ionic solutions. Over the past 2 semesters, the team has completed a lot of work towards the project. We have gained valuable knowledge through a literature review and started testing different clothing feedstocks for their dissolution in the ionic solution and ability to extrude through a syringe. The team started with pure cellulose as a control to learn the process and has moved to testing pre-consumer clothing scraps. An economic analysis was also performed to evaluate the cost of the process. The enterprise would like to continue the work we've done in the past 2 semesters. From here, the next steps would be to research and work with a rotary evaporator to recover the ionic solution that is washed off in the water bath. The rotary evaporator can also resynthesize new ionic solutions in the dissolution steps of the process. The team would also like to research different clothing feedstock partners for a consistent source. The work completed this semester would not have been possible without the help of our sponsor, Thimbleberry, the Department of Chemical Engineering, and our material suppliers.